Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So, I'm starting this week's analysis, and um, this will be the series against none other than Annieg001. So, let's get to it. C4, E5, Knight C3, C6. So, this is very common, and after Knight F3, um, well, starting from the move c6, this is already somewhat uncommon territory because, first of all, black wants to play d5, so objectively this is very, um, I guess, has a lot of common sense, but, um, it kind of feels like um, it's it's good in terms of what black is trying to do, but maybe not the best because of the move knight to f3. Because if d5 happens, then takes, and knight takes e5. And here white will be up a very clean pawn. So obviously you don't want to lose this guy. So what happens now, right? If queen to c7 happens, d4 happens, and then d6, and this is a game. This is definitely playable for black, but the position is just, you have to make a little bit of change because the pawn is threatened, and you probably won't be able to play d5 until very much later. So after knight f3, our friend Annieg001 played f6, and here I said, I'm going to play e4. I'm going to set up something very, very tricky. And now bishop to c5. So this is very common, right? Controlling the d4 square. And at the same time saying, I'm going to play d6 later. I'm going to bring my knight out. But I'm going to play d4. And after pawn takes, and knight to e7, my trick finally comes. Queen to h5. Check, and capture that bishop. So here, our friend Annieg001 resigned. But the moral of the story is, I would say the moral of the story is to not play f6. I mean, I think the best way to defend this pawn here is to play the move d6 or the move queen to c7, but I don't think f6 is the right way to do it. Even here I could play d4, but here I chose a very tricky kind of way. I purposely wanted the bishop to come to c5 so I can really get that double attack on the bishop and king. So that is the first game. I know, it was very quick. But let's get to it. Another game against Annieg001. E4, c5, and now c3. This is what is called the Alapin variation of the Sicilian, and often what white tries to do is c3 and d4, and then maybe bishop to c4, knight to f3. It really depends upon the setup. And here I chose knight to f6. Obviously, black can also play d5. Black can play knight to c6. Black can play g6. There's so many ways to go about this. But knight f6 was my choice, e5, and now knight d5. Bishop to c4, I'm just going to put my knight back, and bishop to b3. So this is actually very common in the Alapin of this particular variation where the bishop comes out, the knight retreats, the bishop goes back, and now I play the move c4, the bishop goes back again, and I play knight c6, and I'm slowly developing my pieces. So d6, I get my queen out, and after b3, I have some thoughts here, right? Do I play queen to e6 and say, I'm putting you in check, you have to play queen to e2, or you can play king to f1, right? So I don't know. I could also play bishop to g4. Maybe pin the knight and the queen would be a good idea. Maybe I play g6 like I did in the game, just develop the bishop, castle, not too much. So eventually I decided on this, and to be honest, I looked at this diagonal for white, and I also looked at knight to a3, and I was a little bit concerned, but I was like, I'm not too concerned because I hope my pieces will work independently. Castles, bishop out, rook e1, I castled, and pawn takes. So I'm pretty sure pawn takes is okay. Like saying, if knight takes, maybe I'll just play d4, but um, bishop to b3 now happens, and at this point I'm I think I was in time pressure, another game, and I didn't pay too much attention to this move. But all I remember thinking was, do I bring this knight to a5? Do I bring this knight to a5? Do I bring this knight to e5? What do I do, right? So I remember in my mind I was just thinking about moving my knight somewhere. And eventually I settled on the move knight to e5 because I said, it looks okay. I'm not screwing up too hard. And it's a fast move, right? I don't have to think much about it. But I have to say, knight 6 to a5 is probably better. Just slightly. Because after d3, knight to e5, or if you want to get the bishop pair, and a takes b3, knight to e5. Because now, I guess in this position, white probably is okay, but what I'm concerned about in this position is white's idea of bishop to a3 and going for this e7 pawn. So it was a really hard decision for me to make because I sort of thought, knight here, the bishops are still going to come to a3. But after knight 45, our friend Annieg001 played a very good move, d4. And I wouldn't say this was the best execution of it because, to be honest, there's knight takes. I just realized there's takes, and knight takes d4. I think that works. But I guess on hindsight, it looks like a really good move. There might be, of course, white still has bishop to a3 in this position. So that's something I always have to consider. But initially in the position, I remember thinking, this was convenient. I don't know if it was my best choice, but let's give it a shot. So after d4, I played knight to g4 because I failed to see. Yikes, I am tired sometimes, and that's okay. So knight takes f3, queen takes f3, and I failed to see the move knight takes d4 at the time. So I played knight g4 because of course, I didn't think too hard. I was in a simul, and I was like, I cannot spend too much time on this one move. So after knight g4, h3, knight f6, and now bishop to g5. So at this point, when I retreated my knight to f6, I sort of said, I initially had a pretty good position, but now I've moved my knight so many times, like it was here, it was here, and it's here. So I kind of felt like I was unproductive with my time. Bishop g5, and now I decided let's bring the bishop out. Knight to d2, and now b5, just saying I'm going to limit you from going knight to c4. But I don't know. In this position, queen to e2 could happen, right? Attacking this pawn and maybe putting some pressure on e7. I didn't know. a4 happened and I played a6. I could have also considered b4, but I think at the moment when I was thinking in the simul, I was a bit worried about knight to c4 and knight to e5. So I said, let's play a6 for now, queen to e2, and now I played the move knight to d5. It's very tactical because number one, all of this is because I have a threat on c3. If you eliminate me, I'm going to take, and if you take, I take. If you play bishop takes e7, I'm going to play rook to e8 and pin your queen to the bishop if you take. So it's very tactical. And if you don't do anything, like if you play rook to c1, I'm going to play h6. And I'm going to maybe hop on f4 if you allow me to, or I can just maybe build on this b pawn. So there's so many things tactically that I can think about, but our friend Annieg001 spoils the game with the move bishop takes e7, because here knight takes e7, other knight can also take e7. Both moves work, but our friend Annieg001 hung a piece in a position that was pretty good for white. So let's go back to the start. So obviously the opening was pretty balanced, and then I have to say at this when all things started going wrong for me when I played the move knight to e5, then I played knight to g4, knight to f6. I know that many of my moves were unnecessary this game, right? Later on, I started finally making progress, bringing everything out. But here, even now looking at it, I'm still in a little bit of a worse position because my pawns are very easily targeted. And even though I'm trying to create counter threats, most of the pressure right now is on my pawns right here. So in the game, I kind of felt like, I'm okay here. But now that I think about it, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy here, definitely. But yeah, after a6, I just got lucky. Bishop takes e7 and got that piece. So, what can I say? It's we all make mistakes. I make mistakes, but in the end, it's all about having fun. And I think, even though, right, I made the decision to get my knight to e5, knight to g4, knight to f6, all that time I could have spent progressing and improving my own position. But I didn't quite do that. And so as a consequence, time was starting to slip away from me. And our friend Annieg001 had some good chances to really put some pressure on my pieces. So, needless to say, I got lucky in this game, but it's all about curiosity. It's all about having fun, and it's about finding that groove and curiosity of yours. So, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and just think about um, whether you enjoy the game, or maybe you could tell me how I could improve, maybe how fun my content is. So just let me know, and I'll see you soon.